welcome back to another evening of Shear Chat right here in Washington, D.C. I am your host, Rashawn Broadnax, and this evening I have an amazing guest with me. You know, I say that every week, but I told you I have an amazing circle of friends. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Carrington Wells, who's also a barber. We used to work in the same salon area, basically, a couple of years ago. And he was downstairs, I was upstairs, and he went to the same barbering school that I went to, which is the Beauty and Barbering School Bennett Career Institute. So we've known each other for some time, and he's done great things in the industry. And most recently, he has become a realtor. Well, not most recently, because it's been a little while now. So I wanted to bring him here to talk to you all about the state of real estate right here in Washington, D.C. If you saw the promo, and she's unable to be here due to unforeseen circumstances, so we do wish her well, Miss Kia Rayford, and we look forward to having her back another time. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Carrington. Carrington, meet the people, and people meet Carrington.
How you doing? How you doing?
All right. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as he just said, my name is Carrington Wells. I've been doing real estate for about 1 or 2 years. Well, licensed in DC, licensed in Maryland, both of them, and just out in the District of Columbia, or really the DMV, and networking, because real estate is all about networking. Your clientele is all about who you know. If you know a lot of people, your clientele is in abundance. So that's basically it. Yeah.
Okay, so how long have you been, let's go to, back to the barbering and the beauty industry field. How long have you been barbering?
If I can remember, 2010 is when I got my license from Bennett Career Institute.
Okay.
And like I said, as far as real estate, it's been about 2 years. But it's been amazing. The fact of being able to network, or the people that I cut are usually the people that want to buy or want to rent. So it works hand in hand.
Okay.
Definitely works hand in hand.
Great. And so I know Carrington has a great clientele. I've watched him build the clientele over the years, and for many people, when you talk to them about great haircuts, his name always comes up. So he was dubbed the celebrity barber, some time ago. And so tell us some of the people that you have serviced.
Okay. Well,
you don't have to tell us their names, but tell us,
Well, NBA players, NFL players, people that have been on, what was it, Broadway? I guess you can say.
Oh, that's right, because it was.
That was my first celebrity.
Okay.
Cutting some of the cast of, was it Fela?
Yes, I think Fela.
Yeah,
Fela, something like that.
Yeah. So it's just being lucky enough to, I guess, be on people's good side and treating people good, because majority of my clientele base, as far as celebrities, has been from a referral. So I mean, like I said, NFL players, NBA players. Of course, I've cut a lot of local celebrities, and the list goes on. I'm just trying to rebrand, actually. I guess next, just to try to. I don't know. I think everybody should rebrand.
Well, you have to.
Yeah.
As you move forward with your career, you have to also update your brand.
Yeah.
You cannot, work the same brand as it was 10 years ago today.
Right.
Because everything evolves.
Everything
and you
changes.
do have to add to your brand, expand your brand, and push it forward. So I think that's a really good thing. So. Okay, so you've been a barber for about 10 years.
About 10 years.
And where is it that you work?
I work at 923 U Street. I'm always promoting. That's what I do. 923 U Street, Northwest.
Which is the name of it?
Showtime Barber Salon.
Okay.
It's right by Ben's Chili Bowl. Kind of. I love it there. I definitely love it there. And I guess I'll be there for maybe a year or two more, and then I'll venture off and do something my own. Yeah. I mean,
Well, I think it would be about time then, because
yeah,
that would be a good 12 years in the industry, and I think you've learned a lot. You've been exposed to a lot of different things from the people that we are around.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure that they have imparted in you, and if you have that motivation to move forward and do something on your own, you have the skill set to do that.
No, definitely.
So, I think that would definitely be a good thing. So, in terms of where you work, what do you feel about the area that you're working in?
Well, the area it's changed. The past 5 years, of course, there's different races, different faces, have came into the city, moved in, and it's, I guess you really can't say it's really not really Chocolate City anymore. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I can cut any type of hair, there is, whether it's straight, whether it's coarse, whatever it is, or I guess coarse would be the word you would use. And it really doesn't matter, and yeah, like I said, different faces, different races.
So the change of the demographic of the city has not affected your workflow?
Not at all, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Because I know there are a lot of barbers that I have encountered who, they talk about that, because there has been that shift of where there's not as many clients with curly textured hair. They've kind of moved out into the Maryland area, things like that. So they're choosing barbershops that are a little closer to them, maybe in Maryland or on the outskirts of the city. So right here in the city, in the heart, they are starting to struggle a little bit because they have not been familiar with cutting and dealing with straight textured hair. So that has not affected you.
It hasn't.
At all.
And the best part about that, I like challenging myself. At first, when I first started, when I went to Bennett, I didn't really take too many clients. I kind of hid from the clients that was with straight hair, and I wish I didn't, because I guess a couple of years ago was really when I can't say I mastered it, but I got better at it a couple of years ago, and now I'm pushing myself to watch YouTube and take different straight hair classes and learn the straight hair. I want to be, in my opinion, I want to be as good with straight hair as I am with curly hair or coarse hair. So that's my goal right now. That's literally my goal, to be better with the straight hair because of the change, of the different races and different faces in the city, in the area where my shop is located. So I want to be able to, if I'm outside networking or if I'm, at a happy hour or whatever it is, I want to be able to speak to the person, whether they're the left or the right of me, and network. And just because, back in the day, if the person didn't have curly hair, I wouldn't network with them because there would be no point to network with them. So now, it's I'm happy to I guess learn the straight hair or be enthused to learn the straight hair even more, basically.
Okay.
So
I think that's an excellent point, and I mentioned on a previous show that that's something that I talk to a lot of the students at the school now to take advantage of the time, because I was also similar to you, where I did not do a lot of what I wasn't comfortable with. Okay. So I left school being uncomfortable with a lot of things. And so I stuck with a small thing, and I said, well, I'll eventually grow. But when you're trying to grow a clientele, you don't have that time to say, oh, well, no, I can't do that, and I don't do that.
Yeah.
You really need to have some proficiency with the scope of, the vast scope. So, and it just took me time. So I think that's excellent that you take that initiative to move forward and to take classes and whatnot, so that you can continue to be relevant, of course, so your name stays relevant, but then you're also proficient in what you're doing. So we're going to hold it right there, and we're going to take a quick break, and we will be back in a few moments with another evening of Shear Chat. I'm Rashawn, this is Carrington Wells, and we'll be back in a moment. Good evening, everybody, once again, and we want to thank you for joining us again and coming back. I am Rashawn Broadnax, your host, and this again is Carrington Wells. Before we go back into our conversation, I would like to invite you to follow our Facebook page, which is Shear Chat. Follow our YouTube page, which is Shear Chat with Rashawn Broadnax. And then on Instagram, it's Shear Chat with Rashawn. So notice the name just grows a little bit with each platform, but you have the gist. If you type in Shear Chat, I'm sure you'll get it. But I would love it if you would follow us on those platforms and then go over to YouTube and look at our whole catalog of shows. You'll see all the past shows, and if you subscribe, you'll be able to get notifications of new shows that are posted. So, with that being said, we're going to go back into our conversation, and we're going to talk about real estate a little bit. All right, so as I mentioned before, Carrington is also, in addition to being a barber here in the city, he is also a licensed realtor in DC and Maryland. So, Carrington, tell us a little bit about what's going on in the real estate industry right now.
Oh, you put me on the spot. But well, right now, it seems as though, like I said before, as far as with the barbering, people are, it's a lot of renters. It's definitely a lot of renters, in the DMV. But then I guess you could say it's also a lot of buyers or people that actually own stuff.
Okay.
Because as I see, in the area, where I work, it's a lot of developments. I guess being risen or rising up, and the cost of renting is is crazy. It's super expensive compared to the way it used to be. A couple years ago.
So let me ask you a quick question about that, because that is a big thing, the cost.
The cost.
And so in terms of rent,
Uh-huh.
who are these people that are paying these costs?
Well, what I think, and this is just my opinion, I think because DC has, in the city, it's so many, it's like let's say U Street, for instance. U Street is like the heart of the city almost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have clubs, you have bars, you have, places that have events, you have, restaurants, it's all those type of things. So because with real estate, it's location.
Right.
If an area is, prime real estate, I guess you can say,
Mm-hmm.
Basically, which means it's where everybody wants to live,
Right.
the cost goes up tremendously.
Okay,
You
so
know?
now, but I think that, and then maybe it's just me,
Mhm.
I said to myself, the cost is so astronomical. Like, who is paying
Who's paying for it?
these prices?
I think out of towners. Not to
Okay.
cut you off, but I think out of towners, people who haven't been living in the District of Columbia
Mhm.
or the DMV for the past 10 years, they're new.
Okay.
Because unless they live, on the outskirts, but I think a lot of people are new. And that's just because I can tell. It just seems like when I'm out networking, all I meet is out of towners.
Okay, which is a great point, because I think it was maybe 2 years ago, I was at the Barber and Cosmetology Forum. Well, no, it was a little longer than that, because it was prior to our current mayor's term. And the mayor then had mentioned that there were 65 working cranes in the city.
Wow.
And he said that is the largest amount of working cranes nationally within one city.
Wow.
Nationally. So that means there were 65 different building projects going on at that particular time. And so he said the monthly flow of new people coming into the city was roughly 1,200.
Wow.
So I said, okay, because I'm thinking 65 cranes, there's 65 new buildings going up. Who's going to live in these buildings? But if you have a flow of at least 1,200 people coming in, and this again was a couple of years ago, that's who's fitting into these buildings,
people.
And with DC being a transient place, most people do come here. Some do stay, and then some are here for about 2 to 3 years because of a job or what have you, and then they kind of move on. So they may choose to rent those type of locations, because I'm not going to do it for very long.
Yeah.
So they may continue to invest.
That
in
makes
it.
sense. That definitely makes sense. That
Right.
definitely makes sense.
So, tell me this. So that's like the current, I'll say, state of real estate. I keep trying not to say that because it sounds confusing, but the state of real estate. So now tell me, why are the developers, do you think, going for such the higher price tag on these the rentals and homes, and then what we see naturally is that it starts to fall? Is it, let's shoot for the stars initially, and then we'll get what we get, or what's the reason behind it?
I think they do it because they can. People want to live in this booming city, especially the heart of the city, and they do it because they can. People they get their 2 weeks paycheck, and they know they have to live somewhere, and most people don't want to live in the outskirts of DC. Maybe they could be afraid of crime or something like that, but I guess they'd rather spend what they make on living in the booming area of the city, basically, where everything is near.
Now, do you find that to be just younger people, middle-aged, or a combination of both?
Well, I think it's middle-aged and people, I guess, who are a little bit older than middle-aged, because when you say younger, what age?
Younger I consider like 20s, maybe early 30s. Like middle-aged to me is maybe late 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Well, I don't know about the younger, but I know definitely, or maybe younger. I do meet a lot of people who are younger, and because I guess when you're younger, you don't mind getting up and going. So I guess you could say younger. I think it's just an overall age range basically, but older, I feel like they usually stay put because they usually own something. They're in their the time in their life where maybe 30. Because it seems as though, and this is my opinion, around 30, close to 40, you're ready to own something because you kind of feel bad of spending literally $200,000 to $300,000 worth of money that you made from your 20s to your middle 30s, and you don't have anything to show for it. So it maybe the older people they want to stay put. So middle age, younger, to answer your question basically.
Okay. So now let's switch gears a little bit, and I want to know. So now we are looking at purchasing property. Is there something when I come see? Well, first of all, let's start with this. What brokerage are you with?
Keller Williams Preferred Properties in Upper Marlboro.
Okay.
I've been there since I had my license.
Okay.
Basically, once you just to give the viewers a little insight. Once you pass the state board and with real estate, you have to hang your license up in a brokerage to actually to work. I mean, to help somebody buy, to help somebody sell.
Okay.
If you're not helping anybody buy or sell, you don't have to hang it up. But as soon as you help the public, you have to have your license hung up on a brokerage's wall, basically.
Okay, so it's not possible to just be like an independent seller.
You literally have to have be under a broker, basically.
Okay.
Your broker is basically like your boss, even though you're an independent contractor, but you have to have somebody over you, just I guess because they know the rule of the game, basically. So and then of course real estate agents have insurance. Well, the brokerage has insurance, just in case something happens. Doing the deals, the real estate agent could, mess up the deal and lose thousands or millions of dollars, basically, if they're dealing with a, $1 million deal. So by law, you basically have to be under a brokerage, basically.
Okay. So then, if I wanted to purchase something, are there things that I need to have before I even start to look for a realtor?
Yes.
Okay, what are those?
When I first started, when I first started, so I've been doing it for 2 years. So I guess I can't say I just started. My first year was very, very slow. I promoted a lot on Instagram, on Facebook. I networked a lot, and basically I would allow people to go have me take them on showings without even having what you just asked, having anything to show that they can even qualify to rent or to buy. So I wasted a lot of time, my first year. So basically, to answer your question, if you want to buy, you have to have, decent credit. A lot of people think you need 700s, 800s, number as far as credit. but you can actually get or buy a house with low 600s. There's a lot of programs out there, and if you want to rent, you have to make sure that your credit is good as well.
Okay.
Because I probably did more showings with rentals than I have for purchases. And I used to put if anybody wants to rent or buy a home, contact me. I was actually on the number 10 list of all Keller Williams real estate agents in the whole East Coast on people that downloaded my apps. So that was like, I don't know if it was like 2,000 or 3,000 people that downloaded my app or something like that. I forgot what the number was, but I was on the top 10. It was because I knew how to promote on my Instagram.
Right.
So people would contact me. Just to give you a little understanding of what it used to be. People would contact me. They would say they wanted to go see a place, and I would say, "Oh, okay." I'll pick up my phone. "Oh, okay. I'll meet you at this, that, X, Y, and Z place." And that's all I would do. And then when it came time to do the application, they would pay the application fee, and no one really got chosen because I was dealing with people who didn't have good credit.
Okay.
And if I would have known like I know now, I would have screened those people and asked them, or sat with someone at the office and said, have them run their credit first,
Right.
to make sure that they even qualify.
Right.
So that's as far as renting. As far as buying, you have to be pre-qualified, to purchase. And when I say pre-qualified, I mean you have to go to whoever you have had a relationship with as far as banking.
Okay.
And I say go with them because they trust you. If you were the credit union, Navy Federal or something like that, or Bank of America, just to throw some bank institutions out there. If you're with them for years, they trust you, which means that your interest rate may be lower compared to another place, or it also would mean that you will get chosen. I mean, not chosen, but you will get a yay or a nay. It'd be the determination on a yay or nay if you're pre-qualified.
Okay.
So that's what it is.
So that's pretty much
Get pre-qualified
the thing, right?
When you want to buy, basically. I won't even show someone a property unless you come to me with a pre-qualification letter, meaning you went to the bank has told you can say a random number. You can purchase a house with $250,000. Now I have a list of properties that we can go see in the $250,000. Because otherwise, like I said, my first year, I didn't do that, and people, they would say, "Oh, I can afford $400,000 property," when they couldn't even afford $125,000 property.
And I guess without being, like you said, pre-qualified or even going through those steps to figure out, we believe that we can afford lots of things, but when it comes down to the brass tacks and you actually see what the monthly note would be, what the interest rate would be.
That's an income ratio matters a lot when it comes to
all those things. Then it's like, okay, now I really can. So what I'm hearing that I actually like, because I have never purchased a property, and I was thinking about it, in my short term, but what I'm hearing a lot is it's very much almost like a car. A lot of the things that I kind of did for purchasing a car, so now it's making a little more sense to me. Before it was very abstract to me. I was like, I don't know, what do you do? But I like that, so it makes a lot more sense. So we're going to take another quick break, and we will be back in a moment right here with Shear Chat. My name is Rashawn Broadnex. This is Carrington Wells, and we'll be back in a moment. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. We are on our final leg of tonight's show. I want to say thank you for everyone who joined us, who popped on, popped off our live feed, and those who are hanging on there. My name is Rashawn Broadnex again, and my guest for the evening is Carrington Wells, who is a D.C. licensed barber as well as a Maryland and D.C. licensed realtor. So we just were wrapping up some real estate talk, some preliminary things that you want to do prior to purchasing a home. And then so now I want to talk on a little more personal level in terms of the whole real estate industry. Well, I'll say as it relates to you.
Okay.
What was the best experience that you've had?
Well, the best experience was my first, I guess, because like I said earlier in the show, it was a lot. It was about a year, kind of a year and a half of wasted time, just taking out people who were, not qualified,
Right.
and just wasting time. Thinking, I was about to, get paid, or thinking I was about to be successful as far as completing my first deal, and it didn't happen. So I guess you could say my most exciting, or most the thing that made me happy and made me really want to keep my license and push forward was my first deal. That was it. A little I guess to explain what happened was it was just basically like a back and forth thing with this first deal. So it was a student. I guess you could say someone I went to school with.
Okay.
So someone I went to school with. She trusted me to work with her with her house or buying a house basically, and it was, I guess you could say, my first deal. And to give some insight on the first deal, we found the house. I think it was in Northeast, and it was on the market for about a year. I think
Wow.
I think so, and it was. She wanted to use a rehabilitation loan, basically.
Okay.
So it was more so like a shell, and I guess out of the blue, someone else purchased it. We had a contract out for it, and somebody else, and I guess other people had contracts out for it as well, and someone purchased it. So we literally were working on the deal for about 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
And it kind of, it made me sad because you're working 4 or 5 months, you haven't got paid yet, and someone else purchased it.
Right.
So I told her not to give up, and I sent her a couple other listings, and we found the listing, another listing. So it was down the street actually, and this property was also a shell in Northeast, and I guess to make a long story short, that situation or that purchase or that contract was about another 6 months. So
wow.
we put a contract on it, and we heard back from the realtor who represented that property.
Right.
And we talked to him, and then out of the blue, he wasn't picking up the phone anymore. So that was the time span between the 6 months. Out of the blue, and this was crazy. I was so happy that day. He called my phone and left a message and said, hey Carrington, I don't know if your client still wants the place, but we want to sell.
Okay.
So she bought it. She bought it, and I was happy because that literally was about a little bit over a year of just working,
right?
Taking people out for rentals, taking people out to also purchase, but they I guess they just changed their mind,
Right.
So
it seems like the business can be very good, but then it can also go up and down.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you have to have many irons in
Yeah.
the fire. So let me ask you this: how long? What would you say is an average time for someone to, from the time that they first go out to the purchasing?
When you say that, you mean when it first
so
go
like
out?
the first time
Viewing the property?
Yes, the first time viewing a property too. What's like the time,
The
average time?
Well, see, my situation was about 6 or 7 months, but that's not the average time. The average time I've heard, even though I haven't, done a deal in 30 to 60 days, but I've heard somebody close a deal in 30 to 60 days, meaning they go out, they like the property, they do the paperwork, everything goes through the bank and the title company and all of that, and I've heard it be closed in like 30, 45, or 60 days,
And so that sounds like a person that would be very prepared.
Yeah, very prepared.
So they already know their numbers.
Yeah.
They know what they're going to be qualified for. They can go in and present a strong offer, and then kind of just
and not going through any programs. Those programs,
right.
Those first-time home buyers programs, they help out a lot because you're a first-time home buyer. You can get a lot of help with closing costs, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, where if you didn't go to a program, you would have to come up out of pocket. I don't want to tell. Of course, by law, I can't tell my client's business
Right.
on what she paid at closing. But some people can pay $20,000, $10,000, $30,000 worth of closing costs.
Right.
But with these programs, you literally can go to closing paying zero.
Right.
Literally, and or half of what the figures that I just said because you went through a government program basically.
Do you know the names of any of the programs just for our viewers?
I got you. I got you. I got a list of them. Let's see. Real estate. Boom, boom, boom. Let that load up. Well, you have DC Open Doors. That's for DC. You have My Home 2 program. That's for the Prince George's County area. You have the Home Purchase Assistant Program. That's HPAP. And it's a few more.
Okay.
Let me see.
But those are three good ones that you guys can start with, and you have that information.
And
so, as the last thing we're going to touch on in terms of the real estate is, what would be your best advice to a new agent just starting out?
Network. Literally network. I wish I networked more when I first got into the into the industry because I guess you could say also to be at the office more because my first year I did more showings more showings than actually been at the office, so I really wouldn't go in the office much. But I meet a lot of my clientele for barbering and for real estate on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and all those other social media, places. And I say go into the office more because because you have to go into the office to finish a deal usually.
Right.
Even though a lot of things you can sign over your phone and this, this, that, and the third, you have to go into the office to, even pick up your check usually. So I started going into the office right before my deal was, completely finished, and I met a lot of people that I should have met a year prior.
Right.
And a lot of people said, oh, this is your first time. I would have given you deals that didn't have time to complete. So if you're just getting into the industry, go to the office and be at the office as much as you can away from your daytime job basically. And like I said, a lot of people will give you things that they don't have time for because we're one person. We can't do hundreds of thousands of deals. You have to give it to somebody who I guess probably looks up to you,
right?
Or something like that. So I wish I would have went into the office more, and networked a lot more, and I would have got the deal done. Oh, my first deal quicker, So that's basically it.
Okay, well that's very good. So now as we're getting ready to close out our evening, we're going to go into our final segment, which I call the tea. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about this, I don't know what to call it. I was going to say it's the latest craze, but that makes it sound like it is a positive thing. But the question that I heard this week was, what is with people calling the police on our African American neighbors for the smallest minute things? That was basically the general question. What I'll probably do is go back and get the specific question and let you see it as it goes across the screen, so that you can get a better sense of what I'm saying. I try to be very PC, so I am cautious of what I say, but I'll put the actual question on the ticker tape below. So with that, there was an incident with a young lady at Yale University. And so for those who may not know, this young lady was studying, she's in the graduate program, so she was in the grad dorm, and they have a common area, and she had fallen asleep. The lights were out, so maybe she turned the lights out or what have you, but this young lady, I believe, was of African descent, and another young lady, Caucasian young lady, came in. She turned the light on, and she said, "Hey, what are you doing in here?" You're not supposed to be in here. You can't sleep in here. So she was speaking to her as if she was not a student. The young lady who turned the light on was speaking to the young lady who was asleep as if the young lady who was asleep was not a student, like she had no business being there. So she says, I'm going to call the police. This is the Caucasian young lady. She does call the campus police. They come, and she's telling them, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. When she says, I'm going to call the police, the girl that she's talking to says, you have no reason to call the police. And she says, I can call the police if I want. So the student that was asleep, which I thought was very interesting, and this is something that we keep seeing coming up in all of these instances, is where she pulled out her cell phone and she started to record as the girl was saying, I can call the police on you, you have no right to be here, and all of these things. She taped this. She then posted that to Facebook. So now the young lady does call the police arrive, and they start to question her. And she says, well, I'm trying to figure out, why are you talking to me as if I don't have a right to be here? She said, my parents pay tuition for me to go here. I go to class here. This is my dorm room. So she proceeds to unlock the door to her dorm and says, see, this is where I stay.
Yeah.
The police then say, well, show us your identification. She refused to show it to them initially because she felt that I have no reason to show you my ID. I've opened the door here. I've done nothing wrong. I was sitting in the common area sleeping. I've been accused of doing nothing virtually other than sleeping. So why do I have to go through all these changes? And the police press her and say, we need to see your ID. She finally shows them the ID, which did not have her government name on it, but it had her preferred name, which in, some schools you are able to say, this is the name I want to go by, on my ID. So it's not going to be something that's totally off from your name. But because her name was seemingly difficult to pronounce, she decided to go by this shortened or preferred name. And so the police said, well, this is not, this is still not your room because the room is registered to this person. So she then had to produce an ID that had the name on it, and the school vouched and said yes. But from you, I want to know, from all of that, what do you think is going on?
I don't know if I want to call it racism. I don't know what I want to call it. But I guess you can say it's racism. It's a lot of things, that have been going on recently. And I've been seeing a lot on the news, on social media, and even in this, the story I didn't know about. You just brought up that wasn't fair. It's basically just comes down to the to the fact of it's just not fair. The way that that they treat people of color. It's not fair at all.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you think that this is something not new, but this is like a resurgence, or do you think that it has never really ceased, but we were not aware of it because people weren't using their cell phones to video these things, and now with the this technology, people are more apt, especially people, like you said, you network a lot. People are more apt to grab their phone initially. Even the young lady, as this was going on, because I don't know if I would have been questioned, I would have had the wherewithal to pull out my cell phone and record, even to do an audio recording. I don't think my mind would have gone there, but for her to do that, I thought was very smart. But it just proves the point that we do that more eagerly than we did before. So do you think that we're just seeing it because people are doing that, or is this a resurgence maybe because of the current administration that we're under? There's a lot of things going on there with the political administration that a lot of people believe it lends to these type of activities. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that a lot of things have been happening the whole time. It's never stopped, but because of, like you said, the technology, and because of the cell phones, and things like that, people are able to actually see it on the news, on the social media, on on all of that, because now as I guess as you know, if something happens, everyone picks up their cell phone.
Absolutely.
And they record, they
Absolutely.
Snapchat it, they Instagram it, Facebook, whatever it is, and I think that's the reason why a lot of things that we thought wasn't happening,
Right.
or was not in in light, is now become to light,
Right.
or has been shown, and we're able to see it because of these cell phones that we have. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'll say that it was kind of a wake up call for me, because I was of the mind for a long time that certain things were behind us, and that we know that the racism it dwells in certain places, and sometimes we see it in corporate world, but I felt like it was still removed to a certain extent, and now that we're starting to see all these things, I had to think to myself, has this really, what has happened? Has it, because actually it's been before our current administration, so I could not say that it's because of them, but we've been seeing a lot of it, and then just now, because of the cell phone, everybody's recording, and it goes out, it goes viral within seconds, because soon as you press the button to send, we're able to see it, and just like this young lady with her dorm incident, this was at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I think they said the last video that she posted was at 1:40 a.m. She was posting this stuff to her social media, letting people know what was going on.
Wow.
And now, so the great thing I thought was that the vice president of Yale commented and said that they know that there are things that are not really exclusive to Yale, but one thing that they want to do is to remind the students that they try to make the campus as inclusive as possible. So, where there may not be, an abundance of African American students, the ones that they do have, they want them to feel included in the culture of Yale. They don't want them to feel on the outside of that. So I thought that was very good for her to say that, and she said, that even down to their security and to leaders on campus, they make sure that they have that non-discrimination training, and various things, so that those incidents, things like that, are minimized.
Yeah. So do you know if that particular officer at the time had that training, or did they just start that?
Well, no, I think he did, and and my belief is that I think he had the right to ask for the identification, because when you get stopped by the police, they ask for ID. So there was nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. I if it were me, I would have more readily provided, because again, there's nothing wrong. And I did not do anything wrong. Now, someone may say, flip side, well, if I didn't do anything wrong,
why are you asking?
Why do I have to provide? But the point of providing the ID, again, was to substantiate that you do live here. Even though you have the key, you could have stolen the key.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. It could go a lot of different ways. And, but I'm glad that she did present her ID, just like in other cases. It's, to me, it pays, it's a thin line, but it pays to be compliant with the law.
I think so,
and
too.
So when you're stopped by an officer on the street and they ask for your ID, give it to them. To me, there's no reason not to. And like I said, it's a very thin line. Anything can happen. But I think that most incidents can be minimized if compliance is key.
I think so too.
So on that note, we are going to say goodnight. I want to thank you again for joining us. Tell the people how they can get in touch with you if they are interested in a haircut or purchasing a home.
Okay. Well, haircut wise, Carrington the Celebrity Barber on Instagram. And if you want to purchase a home, it's Carrington _the_ realtor. If you want to purchase a home, or if you are looking to rent, because I do work with both of those.
Okay, great. So, again, my name is Rashawn Broadex. You can always reach me on our social media here for the show, which on Facebook, it is Shear Chat. For what's that other platform? Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
It is Shear Chat with Rashawn, and then of course on YouTube, which we want everyone to join us on our YouTube channel. It is Shear Chat with Rashawn Broadnax. You'll see all three go across the screen here, and I ask that you follow us. Like the page. Subscribe to the page definitely so that you can again see the old shows but as well see the new. And I'm so excited to announce that some of the other shows that I've been working with will be coming back, so you'll see my face so much more often, and I will also include that in so that you can see those shows as well. So again, Carrington, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
To Miss Kia Rayford, we wish you Godspeed and that everything is okay with you, and we look forward to having you with us on another night. And on that note, we are going to say good night and see you soon. Thank you.